Hello and welcome to the Trust Your Board Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, William Monroe, and I am joined by my co-host, Stephen Wright.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Steve, thank you. And how are you doing today, buddy?
So far, so good. I can't complain at all. How about you?
Doing pretty good myself on vacation, actually. So happy to mix in a little mock draft here in the middle of my vacation.
Well, aren't you privileged?
Someone has to be. Someone has to be. On the docket today, we have a full point PPR mock draft. In this mock draft, I'll be drafting out of the second slot, while Steve will be drafting out of the seventh slot. But before we get to that, I believe we have a Twitter poll, do we not, Steve?
Yes, we do. So the poll comes courtesy of CraigCam0274, and he asked, "What player do you think scores the most points in a PPR format? Damian Williams, Josh Jacobs, or David Montgomery?" Will, what do you think?
It's definitely an interesting one. All three of those guys seem to be going pretty close to each other. I think Damian Williams is maybe a few spots ahead of the other two. But, ADP wise, they're probably within a round of each other. I'm not super high on Damian Williams. I do love that Kansas City offense, and someone is going to get the touches there on the run from on the carries from the running back perspective and score points. But as much as it probably is going to be him, I'm just not sold and want to use that draft capital there. For me, I'm going to lean toward Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs is going to get the lion's share of the carries there and probably majority of the targets as well. I know Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington are both there, and probably will siphon some receptions away. So maybe in the beginning of the year, it takes a little while to get going. But as the year goes on, I think he will get majority of those carries or majority of those targets, and I think he probably gets majority of the carries almost the whole year. Being that I saw that Doug Martin was the fourth running back to enter the last preseason game, so don't take that for what you will, but I think that probably means Washington and Richard are ahead of Martin on the pecking order. And for me, it's mostly the offense. I actually think the Oakland offense is going to be better than a lot of people believe this year. I know there's a big circus around Antonio Brown, but I think he's going to have a really productive year once he gets this helmet situation situated. And I think just overall, pretty close with Montgomery, but I would take Jacobs there. What about you, Steve?
So largely in the same boat, a little bit different outcome. Damian Williams is off the board for me. I fully recognize he could be the winner of this poll. He's the back for Kansas City, and that's a great spot to be in. But between the RBBC comments from Reed, his history of using an RBBC, the hamstring issue, the worry about coming back too early from that issue and re-aggravating it, the emergence of Darwin Thompson, there's so much risk there that I am not going to put my trust in him to lead out of these three. And it's pretty even between Montgomery and Jacobs. I do like Jacobs because he's a 3-down back. He's a pass catcher. But as you alluded to, I am not as high on the offense as you are. I like the offense. I like what they're building in Oakland. But I don't think this is like a breakout year or anything for them. So my answer is going to be David Montgomery. Their offense should be more high powered. There's some concerns about Trubisky and his performance so far in camp and preseason, so that has me a little worried. But I think Matt Nagy's going to figure it out. Montgomery certainly has the chance of being the 3-down guy like Jacob is, but even if he's not and he's more of a 2-down guy and Cohen ends up taking all the pass catching work on 3rd down, Montgomery's still going to come in and catch some passes. So I think between that, potentially minimal, I'm not going to say minimal, but timeshare with splitting casters with Cohen, mixed with the better offense, the more reps on offense, the more touchdown opportunity. I think those two things will make up for the pass catching. And then if he does end up as a 3-down back and Cohen's more in the minority, then he's going to blow up. But it can really go either way. They're both in great situations. And really, the poll agrees. So Josh Jacobs did win the poll with about 37%. David Montgomery came in second, right at 35%. So really quite even between the two. And then Damian Williams came in at 28%.
Yeah, it makes sense. And actually, as I say, I'm on the Jacobs side. I don't have any Jacobs shares yet this year. I do have two teams that have Mr. Montgomery on it. So we'll see if I can right that ship and get some Jacobs shares. But I do think Dave Montgomery's going to have a big year as well.
Yeah, Jacobs is a good value for where you can grab him. You know, he's typically going around the back of the third or in the fourth somewhere. So if you go
Mm,
wide receiver, maybe out of the 10 spot or something like that, and then you could turn around and grab a Montgomery and a Jacobs or a Devonta Freeman and a Jacobs. Yeah, you could be setting yourself
mm.
up for a lot of success.
Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense there. Anything else you have to add before we jump into our mock draft?
No, I don't think so.
Awesome. Well, I'll go over the details of the mock draft once more. Like I mentioned, it is going to be a PPR mock draft. Where it's going to be 12 teams. The roster is going to consist of one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end, and two full flexes, which is wide receiver, running back, and tight end. And like I mentioned earlier, I will be drafting out of the second slot, and Steve will be in the seventh slot. I want to get us started, Steve.
Absolutely.
All right. So first off the board, Christian McCaffrey. For me, I think it's pretty much cut and dry top three, almost regardless of of the format, but definitely in a PPR format with McCaffrey, Barkley, and Kamara. I would they're all pretty much right there. I think I put Barkley slightly ahead of the other two, and then it's pretty much coin toss for me. McCaffrey, I think a little bit over Kamara. I was expecting Barkley to go one, and really having to make that choice. Pretty easy for me here to go Barkley. I think he's going to get a lion's share of the carries there. There's really no competition in the backfield, and aside from Evan Ingram and Shepard, if he's healthy, he's probably going to be I'd say at worst third in targets on the team. And there's a chance to lead the team in targets as well. So even though it's a really bad team, it's a generational talent that has a really good chance of being number one running back in the league fancy wise, but probably going to be top six, and I think is safe to at the very least be an RB1. But I think you really can't go wrong in the top three spots there: McCaffrey, Barkley, and Kamara. For me, I'm going to go Barkley here, and we'll see what falls down to Steve at the seventh spot. So Kamara with the third pick, and then Ezekiel Elliott with the fourth pick, David Johnson fifth, and then DeAndre Hopkins, first wide receiver off the board at six, and Steve is here up in the seventh pick.
Yeah, so to give a quick recap of who we have available for the running back position, we got Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, Nick Chubb, Todd Gurley, Dalvin Cook. Wide receivers, we have everybody but Hopkins, and then we have all our tight ends and all our quarterbacks. I was quite worried about this spot when I found out I was drafting out of the 7 because I did not want to be faced with a Zeke versus Devontae Adams kind of a situation, because I would draft Zeke and kind of gamble and try to lock up Pollard later. But I don't know if I'd want to do that when a surefire wide receiver like Adams or Hopkins was on the board. So being that Adams is still on the board, he is my pick. I can't say that a lot of the running backs are really even consideration for me. Bell, I'm not expecting big things from. If you follow us on Twitter, you've been seeing a couple of tweets about Bell pounding the same point home. We've seen Bell miss training camp and preseason before, and he's got off to a slow start. Well, he's missed training camp, preseason, an entire season, and now training camp and seemingly all of preseason again. So is he going to get off to a fast start? I don't think so. I think he's going to go off to a slow start, a very slow start. So kind of off on Bell. Pittsburgh kind of worries me. Nick Chubb would be fine. It just seems really early, especially when I can grab a top wide receiver. The other wide receivers are interesting. Julio Jones and Michael Thomas are going to be great PPR options. And, maybe if the rest of this draft goes running back heavy, I can grab another one coming back. That'd be quite a fall, so I doubt it. But those are great options. But Devontae Adams just has so much touchdown upside. He's proven it year over year. One of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Aaron Rodgers. Not worried about the new offense becoming too run heavy or anything. So Adams is going to be my pick, and we'll go ahead and lock in a wide receiver here. So after my pick was Julio Jones, Le'Veon Bell, Michael Thomas, James Conner, and then Odell Beckham. That rounds out the first. To start the second, we had Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, our first tight end off the board, Travis Kelce at 2-3, Mike Evans, and then Juju Smith-Schuster. So I am back on the board. Running backs, we have Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Kerryon Johnson, Damian Williams, and then at running back, Tyreek Hill, Antonio Brown, Adam Thielen, Keenan Allen, and T.Y. Hilton. So for me, it comes down to three players, really. The only wide receiver I am considering here is Tyreek Hill. Not much of a PPR guy, but we know what he's capable of. It doesn't matter the format. He is going to thrive in Kansas City. So that would be a lethal combination of Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. That would be a great start. And then the two running backs that I'm looking at would be Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon. Dalvin Cook, obviously a great talent in a run-heavy offense, but with his injury concerns. Joe Mixon, no real injury concerns, but a lot of question marks around the offense. But we did see a lot of the same question marks last year, and he was perfectly fine. So it's a tough decision and an important one because it's going to set the tone for my draft here. If I go wide receiver, I really need to focus on running back. If I pick a running back here, I can be kind of balanced the rest of the way. So very important pick, maybe even more so than your first round pick, being a second round pick. But I am going to set myself off balance a little bit. I'm going to grab Tyreek Hill. It's a little too tempting to have both Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. It's going to be a great wide receiver stack, and hopefully I can grab some good value in the third and fourth round on running backs. So I'm going to lock that in here. Right after my pick went Kerryon Johnson, Joe Mixon, and Dalvin Cook, and then Adam Thielen, and that leads to your pick, Will.
Yeah, so a couple of big time players off the board. A couple guys I was looking at there, and Tyreek Hill, Kerryon Johnson, Mixon, and Cook were the three running backs. I was hoping we'd get back to get a nice little running back stack there. So now top of the board overall is Antonio Brown, Keenan Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Damian Williams, who we mentioned earlier, Leonard Fournette, Devonta Freeman, and Aaron Jones. A couple of running backs I would like there, Aaron Jones and Devonta Freeman. So I'm hoping maybe one of them would get back to me the next round. So for me, looking at Antonio Brown and Keenan Allen, I think Keenan Allen's probably a lot safer, especially in a PPR format. But for me, I'm going to have to put my money where my mouth is here and take Antonio Brown. I think, once push comes to shove, they start actually playing real football, AB will be out there, and he, if you look at the numbers, he was, either the top or one of the top, 3 or 4 receivers in the game, about 5 or 6 years in a row now. So definitely has a little bit of a discount here, being that he's on a new team and he's had some off the field issues, we'll say, but luckily not too much injury wise aside from the frostbitten foot that seems to be healed up. So I'm going to go Antonio Brown. We'll see if Keenan Allen maybe gets back. Otherwise, we'll be looking at one of those running backs. So there's Damian Williams and T.Y. Hilton. So definitely gives me Keenan Allen available there. I like Devonta Freeman and Aaron Jones as well, but in a PPR format, I think it's definitely important to get some top-end wide receivers to pair with a Saquon Barkley. So I'm going to go Keenan Allen here. But yeah, like I said, the good pause with Freeman and Jones still there, but I think just the safety of Keenan Allen gives me a nice pairing with the upside of Antonio Brown. So we'll go Keenan Allen, and we'll see what goes off leading up to Steve. Aaron Jones and Devontae Freeman. So the computer is thinking like I was. Then Patrick Mahomes and Leonard Fournette to Steve.
So I'm kind of happy Fournette went off the board. He is someone that I'm scared of right now because every year I go into the next season thinking, don't take risks. You get burned every year. And I've been very hard on Fournette all offseason, and now I'm starting to come around on him to where he might be my big mistake this year. But I don't have to worry about that here, thankfully. At running back, we have Josh Jacobs, Montgomery, Melvin Gordon, Chris Carson, Marlon Mack. At wide receiver, Amari Cooper, Stephen Diggs, Julian Edelman, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. Plenty of good options here. But I need a running back, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a running back, and I will also put my money where my mouth is. I picked David Montgomery in the poll. It is David Montgomery versus Josh Jacobs right now, so I will go ahead and grab David Montgomery for all the reasons I mentioned earlier in the Twitter poll conversation and see if any good running backs get back to me here in the fourth. So after my pick, we had Amari Cooper, then Diggs, Julian Edelman, and then a pair of tight ends, Kittle and Ertz, to round out the third. A lot of running backs went off the board. To start the fourth, Melvin Gordon, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Chris Carson, Marlon Mack, which is unfortunate for me. That's tough. Chris Carson would have been wonderful. So would have been Marlon Mack, but what can you do? So at the running back position, we have Mark Ingram, Philip Lindsay, James White, Sony Michel, Tevin Coleman. At the wide receiver position, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Chris Godwin, Kenny Galladay. So I am going to pivot a bit. I really wanted a running back, but the value has shifted to where so many of them went off the board that there are some very valuable wide receivers here that I want. So I will go ahead and lock in my next or my first flex position here. And I'm going to grab Robert Woods as a real good PPR guy. You know, I love Brandon Cooks, but I'm not in love with the idea of pairing him with Tyreek Hill. Just two kind of boom bust ish kind of guys. I'd rather have a steady hand in Robert Woods for my first flex position. And then hopefully a running back gets back to me, Coleman or Sanders or someone like that to help fill out that spot. So we're going to go ahead and lock in Robert Woods here. Brandon Cooks follows immediately, and then Chris Godwin and Tyler Lockett. Then we have James White go off the board, and now it is your pick, Will.
Yeah, so a little bit of a receiver run there. Woods and Cooks, definitely great value. Your pick, so two solid options. And then we mentioned Godwin and Lockett. So I was hoping that Woods, Cooks, or Mark Ingram, who is still on the board, was going to get back to me. I do think Ingram is going to have a really big upside in this offense. Maybe not. He probably has better value in a redraft league, but he did prove that he can catch the ball in New Orleans. I think he's going to be a pretty high part of this offense here. Now, given that the person behind me does have two running backs and a receiver, if there was any receivers that I really liked, I may look into that option just because trying to play the ADP and getting back to me game. But top of the board there is Kenny Galladay, Cooper Kupp, AJ Green, Calvin Ridley. So not too many guys I love. I would really like to get Kupp, but I don't think too much ahead of some of the other players there. So I hope maybe a Cooper Kupp will get back to me in the next round. And I think a little bit of a drop off after Mark Ingram. You have Philip Lindsay, but I do think there's going to be a timeshare there with Freeman. I've got Sony Michel, Tevin Coleman, Miles Sanders, Tariq Cohen. You'll notice some of these guys, Cohen's there, James White off the board. A lot of these running backs that are more pass catchers are going to be highly valued, and their ADP is a lot higher in PPR versus a standard league. Just to recap the other positions here, I still have all of the quarterbacks outside of Patrick Mahomes available, and all of the tight ends outside of Kelsey, Kittle, and Zach Ertz available. So it seems to be a pretty reasonable draft so far compared to Sometimes when the computers make some strange picks. So right now I'm gonna go Mark Ingram here, and we'll hope that maybe Cooper Cup gets back to me. Mark Ingram goes, Kenny Galladay and Cooper Cup both go. So bit me there, but I think I'd still rather have Ingram over Cup. Just looking at the way that works. Having two pretty solid receivers, don't really need to go receiver here. AJ Green is definitely a temptation in the fifth round here with his upside. But I think there's some other players I probably would look at over him. Let's see what we have available. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Jarvis Landry, DJ Moore, Mike Williams there, some other upside guys. And then if I look back at the running backs, we have Philip Lindsay, Sony Michel, Tevin Coleman, Trey Cohen. So you look overall, best ADP available right now, Philip Lindsay and Sony Michel. Actually, no, I think I'm going to pivot here, just kind of given the rest of the landscape and the upside of AJ Green. Kind of want to see what a team would look like here, taking his upside and kind of accepting that you're likely going to miss him for a few weeks, but hoping that if he can come back, maybe just missing 2, 3, maybe 4 games, would really round out a really strong receiving core. And with Barkley and Ingram, I think I'm pretty safe at running back. I can take some more upside shots down the road. So we're going to see what happens if we go AJ Green here, and maybe look for another, upside running backs and some safer receivers to pair with that in the future rounds. So
Do
we're
you have
going to go AJ Green.
any interest in one of the tight ends, whether it been Evan Ingram or OJ Howard? Were you thinking about them at all?
Yeah, I was looking at them, and their ADP, was right around there, but I think the upside of AJ Green, puts it over there. If he wasn't there, maybe they come into play a little more just because all the running backs are kind of similar. And I wasn't really in love with any of the other receivers as well. Feel like I could probably get one of those level receivers in the next round. So definitely, I think Evan Ingram is my highest. He actually went off the board after I took AJ there. With Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, Philip Lindsay, and Jarvis Landry all going off, leading up to Steve. OJ Howard, Hunter Henry, 3 big time tight ends that were on board there. I probably would have went Ingram had I gone tight end, but I think in this type of league, I'm probably gonna hold off per our usual strategy.
Yeah, that's fair. So the picks to me, we have Sony Michel, Tevin Coleman, Miles Sanders, Tariq Cohen, Austin Eckler at the running back position. At wide receiver, we got Tyler Boyd, DJ Moore, Mike Williams, Alshon Jeffrey, Robbie Anderson. Tight end, we'll take a look. We got OJ Howard, Hunter Henry, Jared Cook, and Vance McDonald, and Patrick Mahomes, still the only quarterback off the board. So, as I asked Will, Evan Ingram, well, he's off the board, but if he was available, him and Howard would be interesting here. But I've created a bit of a hole at the running back position by going so wide receiver heavy. So I will turn away from the tight ends. Same thing with wide receivers. There's some great options here, and Boyd, Moore, Mike Williams, Alshon, like them all, but I don't need another wide receiver right now. So we're going to grab a running back. The decision is pretty tough. I didn't really expect Sony Michel to get to me, and I really like Sony Michel. So I really thought this was coming as a slam dunk for Tevin Coleman, but now it's a little bit more of a debate. Sony Michel going to be the lead back for New England. She get
Do you
plenty of
think he gets
touchdown work.
the pass catching or the targets there with James White available as well?
So kind of in the middle-ish. Is he going to get the pass catching work that he's kind of been hyped about a little bit this offseason? No, I don't think so. Is he going to get more than he got last year? Absolutely, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But not enough. So despite him still being on the board, I still do want Tevin Coleman as my second running back. A bit more risky because he could end up being the 2 for the team and Burita end up being the 1, but he's going to have the pass catching role carved out regardless. I mean, he's a great pass catcher, so he's got that role. If he ends up as the 1, in a Shanahan offense, he's going to be a monster. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to grab Coleman here. just for the extra pass catching. He might not have as much touchdown upside because the offense is as good as New England, but the pass catching I think is going to make up for that in San Francisco. So we've locked in Coleman there. Sony went immediately after, and then O.J. Howard. Our second quarterback went off the board at 5'10", Deshaun Watson, and then Tyler Boyd and DJ Moore rounding out the fifth. To start the sixth, we had Micah Williams, Tree Cohen, Miles Sanders, which is unfortunate, Aaron Rodgers, and Baker Mayfield. So I am back on the board. So at the running back position, you have Austin Eckler, a solid pick, is going to catch a lot of passes and could get some extra work while Melvin Gordon's out, who I do think is going to be out for quite a long time. Lamar Miller would be very interesting here. He'd be perfect for this team if it was standard or maybe even half point PPR. A nice kind of steady guy. He's going to get his workload, but he's not going to catch any passes, so that kind of concerns me for a PPR. Latavius Murray is going to fill that Ingram role, and New Orleans gets some touchdowns, so gets a few passes here and there. Kenyon Drake's situation is suddenly very murky with his injury and the emergence of Balaj. Very well could end up in a 50-50 split. And then you have Rashad Penny, who will be catching some passes and getting some work out of Seattle and should be fantasy relevant on a flex-worthy basis. So plenty of okay options. I'm going to go ahead and grab Eckler for the full season PPR upside and then the extra upside that he's going to provide while Melvin's out. We're still not sure how the carry count's really going to shake out there. Is it going to be a 50-50 split? Is Justin Jackson just going to get all the first and second down work and then Eckler getting the third round work? I don't know. I think it's going to be a mix of the two of them. So I'm going to grab Eckler. Being it's a PPR, it makes that decision a little bit easier. Gives me a nice third running back. I don't want to load up on running back since I waited for so long. So the pick's in. Hunter Henry ran off the board right after me, followed by Alshon Jeffrey, Robbie Anderson, and Matt Ryan. And the pick is to you, Will.
Yeah, so coming to me here, I was looking at when I poked over at the tight end position. I was looking at Hunter Henry there. Being that I have Keenan Allen already, wasn't likely going to take him, but interesting that he's fallen, this far to the middle of the sixth round. I think he's kind of in that tier with O.J. Howard and Evan Ingram. So looking at the top of the board here, Matt Ryan going. We have Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Kyler Murray. The tight end position, it's another drop down tier wise. We got Jared Cook, Vance McDonald, Eric Ebron, and David Njoku. And then running back wise, Lamar Miller, Latavius Murray, Kenyon Drake, and Rashard Penny. As well as receivers, we have Christian Kirk, Robinson, Will Fuller, and Curtis Samuel. So for me, I'm just looking, for either an upside running back or with Barkley and Ingram pretty solid as they are, or pretty solid receiver. And unfortunately, it looks like the top of the board for running backs is safe, and the top of the board for receivers is a little more upside. So for me, I do like Christian Kirk as the receiver, Curtis Samuel as well as Westbrook. The first kind of really safe receivers like Fitzgerald, which probably hold off on those for now. So the player that really sticks out to me is Rashad Penny. Miller and Murray, top of the board there for running backs, are definitely safe and good options. But Penny, I think, has a really good chance to break out and take the job overall. So what I'm going to probably do here, because I think, Penny can get back to me, I'm going to go with a guy that I think is going to get a good workload in New Orleans and Latavius Murray, and hope Penny gets back here. Because I think out of those two, I'll be able to get a flex, maybe even two until AJ Green gets back. So we'll go with Latavius Murray and see who gets back to us here. So next goes Lamar Miller and then Kenyon Drake. So with Rashard Penny getting back to me, the only other option that is tempting here is Carson Wentz still on the board with an ADP of 78. I think he is going to have a big year. Looking at the position, we still have Drew Brees, still have an Andrew Luck there with his ADP plummeting. Cam Newton, Kyler Murray. Given that there is already, I believe, 4 5 quarterbacks off the board. I think there's a good chance another can get back to me here. So I'm gonna trust my draft logic here and go with another running back just because that running back receiver position is so important. And we're gonna go with Rashad Penny. So after that, we had Allen Robinson go, Christian Kirk, Jared Cook, and Carson Wentz just before Steve, so he wouldn't be able to steal my favorite quarterback once again.
It was in consideration, believe it or not. But given the running back concerns, I probably would have passed it up. But I
Mm,
was thinking about it. I keep glancing at Andrew Luck as well, that gambler in me.
yeah,
Even though I got burned on him a couple years ago, he's still looking out at me like draft me. But no. So from the running back position, we have Darius Geis, Daryl Henderson, Jordan Howard, Kalen Balaj, and Kareem Hunt. From a wide receiver standpoint, we have Will Fuller, Curtis Samuel, Dante Pettis, Dede Westbrook, Larry Fitzgerald. And then our tight ends, we have Vance McDonald, Eric Ebron, David Njoku, Austin Hooper. So I am in a bit of a tough spot. I'm not in love with the running backs. Daryl Henderson and Jordan Howard are hard passes. I don't want to handcuff, especially this early. Jordan Howard's going to end up losing his job in the middle of the season and just be a touchdown kind of a guy. Kalen Balaj is getting way too high for me. Geis is kind of tempting here in the 7th round, but I'm just worried of what his production is going to be this year. He could be a great value, but he's somewhat tempting in the 7th. He's not going to burn me if I draft him here. What I really want to do is grab a wide receiver, but there's so many of them that I like. I wouldn't mind a Will Fuller, getting that a nice little boom option here. But I like the upside plays of Curtis Samuel, Dante Pettis, and Dede Westbrook, especially Dede Westbrook, being it's a PPR. So I'd really like to lock him in, and then you have the tight end position as well. Vance McDonald is in consideration. I like him quite a bit. I'm not sure if I love him in the 7th, but that would be a nice option if I could have guaranteed that, say, Dede Westbrook got back to me. So I'm in kind of a tough spot. So I'm going to play the ADP game here a little bit. At the end of the day, I don't think anybody's going to get back to me from the wide receivers. But if someone does, it's going to be Dede Westbrook. So I'm going to take a shot, kind of uncharacteristic because I've been railing against him for most of the offseason. But I'm going to take some gambles at running back, and I'm going to grab Geis. He's not going to burn me if he doesn't work out, and I'm definitely concerned about his injuries. But I want more running backs on this team, being that we waited. And I'm so stacked at wide receiver, I can afford to, wait to see if one of those upside guys get back to me, and if they don't, I'll be fine. So I'm gonna grab Geis here, and a nice little mini wide receiver run right after me. Will Fuller, Curtis Samuel, Dante Pettis all in a row, and then Andrew Luck finally at 7-11, and Cam Newton at 7-12. And then Dede Westbrook came off the board, Larry Fitzgerald, Darrell Henderson, Sammy Watkins, and Vance McDonald. So a lot of wide receivers going off the board there. In between the turns, so I got burned a little bit. We'll take a look at what's left at wide receiver. We have Geronimo Allison, Josh Gordon, Sterling Shepard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Marvin Jones. At the tight end position, we got Ebron and Njoku, Austin Hooper, TJ Hawkinson. At running back, pretty much the same. Jordan Howard, Kalen Balaj, Kareem Hunt, Royce Freeman, Duke Johnson. And then at quarterback, we have Drew Brees, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Lamar Jackson. So another kind of tough spot here. I do want to go ahead and add another wide receiver. And I like a lot of the options. Geronimo Allison, I think, could be a great PPR guy for Green Bay, but I already have Devontae Adams, so I'm not really looking at him. Josh Gordon's there. Do I want to?
temptation of Josh Gordon.
It is, it's that gambler's mentality again, kind of
Mm-hmm.
jumping out at me. Sterling Shepard, who should be a good PPR guy for New York. MVS, who could be a breakout guy in Green Bay, but again, I got Adams, and then Marvin Jones is kind of a steady option. I don't really need a steady
Mm-hmm.
option, but he'd be a good depth play. So it's a tough spot to be in. I mean, it's not saying much because I've ruled out the Green Bay people, but I'm between taking that shot on Josh Gordon and going with just a PPR guy and Sterling Shepard. The problem that I'm running into is being I'm so steady at wide receiver, I want a nice upside play. The
Mm-hmm.
upside play, I think, is Josh Gordon because the dude's fantastic. But we all know his problems. So Sterling Shepard should be, a fine PPR guy, and maybe has a little bit of a breakout year, being that OBJ is gone. But you also have concerns of his injury. Does Eli play well? If Eli gets pulled, does Daniel Jones play well? Like, what happens to that offense? There's a lot of question marks. So it's a really tough decision. And I hate myself. I'm going to draft Josh Gordon. I'm going to do back-to-back gambles on Geis
Gonna
and
do it.
Gordon.
He's
And,
gonna do it.
man, this is so bad for the mentality that I'm trying to get away from. And I'm just
Gambler
encouraging it.
Steve is coming back.
Yeah, he is. We're going to go ahead and draft him. And, he's not going to burn me. Of course, losing a 7th and an 8th round pick, if they both burn me, would hurt, but we'll see. Immediately following me was Kareem Hunt, Geronimo Allison, Drew Brees, and Kalen Ballage. The pick is to you, Will.
And I was really hoping Drew Brees was going to get back there because of that value for him. That's the end of a tier break at quarterback. At this point, I'm probably waiting. I know people love Kyler, but at this point, I'm probably waiting a little while on that position, at least another 2 rounds. But Brees would have been really nice there. Looking at the tight end position, we have Eric Ebron, Njoku, Hooper, Hawkinson, Walker, Reed, Mark Andrews, a lot of tight ends. None that really interest me right now. A few that I wouldn't mind taking later. Back to that quarterback position. We have Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, James Winston, Lamar Jackson, Philip Rivers. So quite a few available there. None that are enticing me too much, especially given the fact that I believe there's only myself, Steve, and the person right behind me, the team in the number 1 slot that don't have a quarterback. So, unless this type of draft, you're probably going to have some teams that'll take a backup quarterback. But ultimately, I'm okay with quite a few that are available there. So we go back to our primary positions of running back and receiver. Given that I have now 4 running backs and 3 receivers, maybe consider 2.5 with AJ Green's concern. I'm shifting my focus back to wide receiver, looking for someone that's probably a little safer. And I'm looking at a guy like Sterling Shepard, Jones, both options that I think are going to be able to just, fill out my roster here and be solid. Then if I get AJ Green back, would really load up the receiving core. I like Sterling Shepard better. We also have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, like crazy upside. So I like all 3 of those. I'm probably looking to go 2 wide receivers here. Running backs, I'm not thrilled with. You have Jordan Howard, Bruce Freeman, who definitely has some upside there, but I think I'm pretty solid at running back at the moment. And then Duke Johnson, who in PPR format definitely has a lot of upside, given that it's just him and Miller there. Jalen Samuel, Sean McCoy. Running back, I'm probably really only considering Freeman, Duke Johnson, but given that I need receiver, we'll receiver see the board falls. For me, I think it's got to be Sterling Shepard. I hate pairing 2 guys on the same team together, but with Barkley, I think that's probably going to be almost the whole offense there. Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Jones are options, but I'll see which of them gets back to me here, and we'll go with Sterling Shepard. And after him goes Jordan Howard and Royce Freeman. So 2 running backs I was thinking about there. I think here I'm probably looking to get another option that I think is going to definitely contribute. As much as I do like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I think Marvin Jones is probably my best bet, just getting another safe option. So we're going to go Marvin Jones, and we'll see who goes off the board after that. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Eric Ebron, David Njoku, Jalen Samuels, and we are back to Steve.
I wanted Marvin Jones, Will.
I'm always glad that I can steal one of your players.
Uh, okay, so on the board we have Duke Johnson, Shady McCoy, Ronald Jones, Devin Singletary, and Matt Breida. At the wide receiver position, Corey Davis, DK Metcalf, Manny Sanders, Cortland Sutton, James Washington, Djax. Tight ends, we're looking at Austin Hooper, TJ Hawkinson, Delaney Walker, Jordan Reed, and then at quarterback, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, and Jameis Winston. This is a tough spot because I don't love anyone on the board. Duke Johnson would be nice, and so would Shady, really. One for pure
Hmm.
PPR, one for to grab a starter. Both solid options. I really wanted a safe wide receiver to get to me, and there's just none here. Corey Davis, bad passing offense, a lot of passing options. Blah. Metcalf, rookie, bad passing offense. Or not bad, just low passing offense. Manny Sanders is very interesting here. It's weird calling him kind of a safer option given his injury and how quickly he's kind of recovered from it, but he seems to be fine and ready to go. But pairing him with Josh Gordon is kind of scary. So it's a tough call on my part. So when I don't love any of the wide receivers or the running backs on the board, I pivot to a different position. I'm not pivoting to tight end because I don't like any of the tight ends on the board. I'm going to go ahead and pivot to quarterback. And two very attractive options in Kyler Murray and Jared Goff. But I'm going to go ahead and go with Goff. We got a little bit of a stack with Robert Woods. Um, Robert Woods not a big, not going to be the big touchdown guy there, so it's not like a fantastic stack, but a stack nonetheless. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in, take care of that quarterback position now, see what gets back to me, and kind of force my hand here on the next playthrough. So Duke Johnson went off the board, Corey Davis, Kyler Murray, DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson. That rounds out the ninth. To start the 10th, we had Ronald Jones, Emmanuel Sanders, Devin Singletary, Deshaun Jackson, and LaShawn McCoy. So a lot of good options going off the board. Running backs, we have Breida, Carlos Hyde, Adrian Peterson, Peyton Barber. At the wide receiver position, Cortland Sutton, James Washington, Dante Moncrief, N'Keal Harry, and Golden Tate. So an interesting spot to be in here. I really need. I guess I'll cover the tight ends quickly here. We got Austin Hooper, T.J. Hawkinson, Delaney Walker, and Jordan Reed. I really need to grab a wide receiver here, and the option that I'm most comfortable with is Cortland Sutton. I'm not in love with the passing options in Denver. They're going to be more of a run team. Flacco's Flacco. But Cortland Sutton's, a young, solid player. James Washington and Moncrief, that situation's kind of up in the air. It seems like it's Moncrief, but he's always been kind of a boom bust kind of a guy. I really don't want that in this position. N'Keal Harry's a rookie. Golden Tate would be a nice option here. It just seems a little early to be grabbing him, so maybe if it comes around and he's available, I'll grab him. But we're gonna lock in Sutton for now and just to give us another wide receiver. After me was James Washington, Matt Breida, Jameis Winston, Carlos Hyde, and Will is up now.
All right, so I'm on the board here looking at the running back position. Like Steve mentioned, we have Peterson, Peyton Barber, a couple of very solid, sturdy backs there. But I'm pretty confident in my team here. So if I'm looking running back, I'm probably looking upside, and there's really not too many guys I love on the board right now. Receiver, we have Dante Moncrief, N'Keal Harry, Golden Tate, Kiki Kuti, and Anthony Miller. So I think I'm going to pivot here, and I'm looking at uh, Austin Hooper is really the only tight end that I'm interested in. There's a couple of guys that I'll take shots on, but I think he's going to have a pretty solid year there. And then I'm also at the quarterback position. There's a couple of guys I like available. We have Lamar Jackson, Philip Rivers. So I'm going to go here with Austin Hooper, get my tight end out of the way, and then see who's available out of those quarterbacks, and look back to the running back position. And because, like I mentioned, only having the four, maybe a Peyton Barber, Adrian Peterson, if either are there. But we're going to go Austin Hooper first, and then take a look at which quarterbacks and or running backs get back to me. And Dante Moncrief as well as Philip Rivers goes off the board here. So for me, I do think Lamar Jackson is a solid option. Looking at his schedule, he starts the year in Miami and in home for Arizona, two big time teams. I think he should be able to play well against early, and then maybe be able to run the ball against if that they're winning like they're probably expected to be early. Lamar is definitely top consideration for me. We still have Adrian Peterson and Peyton Barber available. And given that there's not too many running backs after them, and only having four running backs, it's definitely comes into consideration for me here. Not looking at the tight end position since we just took one, and receivers really not too many that I really like. So for me, it comes down to a guy like an Adrian Peterson, and Peyton Barber. How long do they hold the job? They probably should start the year with it, but we don't know if they're going to hold that the whole year. We also, have that Lamar Jackson option. So I don't typically like to take quarterbacks too early here, but I think I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. I really like the rushing upside there. If he can rush for 50, 60 yards a game, you're getting, a free touchdown on top of, any passing yards that he gets. Maybe it's only 150 yards, let's say 100 yards passing, but if he can rush for 50 or 60 yards, you're looking at another 150 yards worth of passing yards. And if he can combine for maybe 2 touchdowns a game, he has the upside to really have a really high. So we're going to go Lamar Jackson here. We'll see who comes up the board leading it to Steve, Ben Roethlisberger, Adrian Peterson, Peyton Barber, and N'Keal Harry leading up to Steve's next pick.
Yeah, so to give a rundown, running backs, we have Justin Jackson, Alexander Mattison, Damian Harris, Darwin Thompson, Justice Hill. At the wide receiver position, we have Golden Tate, Kiki Kuti, Anthony Miller, Tyrell Williams, Jamison Crowder. Not really worried about quarterbacks since we've already drafted one. And then at tight end, TJ Hawkinson, Delaney Walker, and Jordan Reed. So a interesting spot, and I'm glad things played out the way they did at the wide receiver position. The person I want here is going to be Golden Tate. He's a PPR machine. I can withstand his suspension with my team, but he's going to give me that kind of the safety outlet that I need to deal with Cortland Sutton and Josh Gordon. So it's a pretty easy pick for me. I can't say there's a lot of others in consideration. Justin Jackson, I don't need because I got Eckler. If I didn't have Eckler, he would be in consideration. Matson and Damian Harris aren't really interesting to me. I do like Darwin Thompson, but this may be a bit too early. And then I'm hoping the tight end I'm targeting is Jordan Reed. I'm hoping he might get back to me on the next turn. But we'll see what happens. So we're going to go ahead and lock in Golden Tate here to get that safety outlet. After my pick, we had Kiki Kuti, TJ Hawkinson, Alexander Mattson, Anthony Miller, and Justin Jackson to round out the 11th. Then we had Tyrell Williams, Jamison Crowder, Darwin Thompson, Dak Prescott, and Tom Brady going off the board. This is kind of the unfortunate part of later drafts. Jamison Crowder and Darwin Thompson have been favorites of mine to ground with my last pick in drafts for a while now, but they're both starting to climb up the board, which is good to see for them, bad to see for me.
Yeah, I mentioned Darwin Thompson. Let's call on your shot there that he got drafted right before he got back to you.
Yeah, that would have been a nice pick, but what can you do? So running backs on the board: Damian Harris, Justice Hill, Tony Pollard, Deion Lewis, Deonta Foreman. Wide receivers: we got Funchess, Gallup, Mecole Hardman, John Brown, Adam Humphries, Debo. Tight ends: Laney Walker, Jordan Reed, Mark Andrews. So I'm in a tough spot between a running back and my tight end. Again, I really want Jordan Reed. He is the guy I've been drafting a lot. He's going to be a good PPR guy out in Washington. There's some injury risk there, I recognize, but I do like him. I like Mark Andrews as well, and that's not a bad pick, but I trust Jordan Reed a little bit more. From the running back position, the guy I'm looking at is Tony Pollard. just given me waiting for running back, he could buy me a couple weeks of having, I don't want to call him elite, but above average production for who knows how many weeks. Probably just two, but maybe a lot more. So it's a tough spot to be in, but I tend to punt tight end, so I'm comfortable going ahead and punting again. I got a feeling I'm going to get burned if both Reed and Mark Andrews are going to go off the board, but we'll grab an older guy, maybe a post-hype sleeper in Trey Burton or, old man Olsen or something like that. So we're going to lock in Pollard here as what are likely be my last running back pick. After me, it was Damian Harris, Justice Hill, Deion Lewis, Delaney Walker. The pick is yours, Will.
Yeah, so I was looking at a running back as well. Pollard's a solid option there. A couple of the top guys off the board to go, and one of the two I was hoping would get back to me was Deion Lewis. He went he picked ahead of me there. I think he's got a pretty safe option there, being there's really not too many other pass catchers. Derrick Henry's going to get the lion's share of those first and second down, but I do believe that Deion Lewis is going to get the majority of the targets and the third down work. So he's a solid option to get late in your draft here, especially in the PPR format. And I'm happy to see the other guy I wanted here is available in Naeem Hines. Hines is going to get the lion's share of the passing down work. I'll admit Mac seems to get some praise and maybe get some of the passing down work as well, but it seems like Wilkins is pretty much off the radar of most of the defense and the coaches now, and it does look like we are going to be losing Deontay Foreman again for the year. From what I hear, he's going to be hurt, even though they picked him up in Indianapolis. So for me, it's going to be Naeem Hines, and then we'll see who gets back. Jordan Reed goes, so
No.
something Steve did not want to see, as well as a Mecole Hardman off the board. So looking here, not too many running backs I love. Yeah, got Foreman. We got Smith out of Atlanta, Ito Smith. Chris Thompson out of Washington is a solid option in PPR here. CJ Anderson, Gio Bernard. Could take a shot on a Malcolm Brown to see if maybe something happens with Gurley. But I think I'm going to hold off and probably will take one more running back, but wait around. Going to go with the receiver here and looking, maybe for some upside since I did get a lot of safety there. And for me, I think a solid option really late in drafts that you're going to get is a John Brown in Buffalo. I know that it seems like Robert Foster, who is maybe his biggest competition for the deep ball, has been falling out of favor and may not get as much playing time this year. Cole Beasley seems to have locked down, the slot position. It's going to be that safety blanket. So down the field targets, it's really going to be Zay Jones, who has shown flashes but hasn't really proved it long term, and John Brown, who, if he can stay healthy, seems to be the main target there. So we're going to go with John Brown and give us some flexibility for our last pick. So coming off the board after John Brown, Mark Andrews, another shot to Steve's heart there. Adam Humphries, Kirk Cousins, and then a Michael Gallup.
I don't know why I'm so upset. I said it was going to happen, but here we are.
Telegraphed it.
Yeah, unfortunately. So running backs, we have Foreman, Ito Smith, Chris Thompson, C.J. Anderson, Gio Bernard, Malcolm Brown. At wide receiver, Devin Funchess, Deebo Samuel, Paris Campbell, Cole Beasley, Andy Isabella. And then at tight ends, we've got Rudolph, Olsen, Trey Burton, Jimmy Graham, Jack Doyle. So, from a running back perspective, I don't love a lot of these options. Chris Thompson, we know is electric, but has injury concerns. He could be interesting, but I already have Geis. The only one I really consider drafting here would be Malcolm Brown to kind of play that game with the Rams. At wide receiver, I think Funchess is a value here. I don't love him, but with your second to last pick, not counting defenses and kickers, that's a nice spot for him. Randall Cobb's always been a nice PPR guy, taking over that Beasley role. So an interesting option there. And then at tight end, Greg Olsen, Trey Burton, Tyler Eifert, all kind of interesting options. Darren Waller, who's been emerging in Oakland. I'm going to take my shot on Tyler Eifert. And what I'm hoping for is that he plays well with the first 3 games with AJ Green out. That gives me some time to look at who's on the waiver wire and find what would
Hmm.
likely be a more long term option. Is Trey Burton looking okay? Is Darren Waller actually breaking out? Did somebody drop somebody else? Because I'm not confident in Tyler Eifert with a long term play, but he'll get me through a couple games while I figure things out. Um, Off the board after me, Jimmy Graham, Deonta Foreman, Jack Doyle, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Devin Funchess to round out the 13th. And then with the last round, Greg Olson, Kyle Rudolph, Cole Beasley, Ito Smith, and Chris Thompson. At running back, we got C.J. Anderson, Gio Bernard, Malcolm Brown. At wide receiver, Deebo Samuel, Paris Campbell, Andy Isabella, a bunch of rookies, not really interested there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a last running back. I mentioned before, I like Malcolm Brown. I think he might end up being the handcuff, or at the very least getting pass catching work there, which is great for a PPR league. So I'm going to make Malcolm Brown my last pick there. And after board after me was Trey Burton, Paris Campbell, C.J. Anderson, Marquise Goodwin, and now we're up for Will's final pick.
Yeah, so looking at the running back position, we have Gio Bernard, Jerick McKinnon, Mike Davis, Alfred Morris, Jalen Richard. Really, I think Malcolm Brown's probably the only one really in consideration for me out of the running backs. There's really not too much else available there. So probably turn my attention here to the wide receivers. Top of the board for our draft position, we have Deebo Samuel, Andy Isabella, Randall Cobb, Sean Hamilton, Smith out of Tracy Tricklin Smith out of New Orleans, and really Schlapp after that. The only two that are in consideration for me here is Deshaun Hamilton and Traquan Smith. Smith, probably more upside week to week. Has a chance to have those big plays in a pretty potent New Orleans offense. Hamilton is, probably relying more on re-injury of Manny Sanders. So, should Emmanuel Sanders, we get word that maybe he's not doing as well as Ward currently is, I would probably lean more toward Deshaun Hamilton. But in this situation, I think I'm going to go with another upside receiver like John Brown and a Traquan Smith to round out my team here. So we'll go Traquan Smith. And the last pick of the draft here is Josh Allen, a quarterback I know we both really like. So after that, we can recap our teams here. Steve, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So at quarterback, I have Jared Goff. At running back, I have David Montgomery, Tevin Coleman, Austin Eckler, Darius Geis, Tony Pollard, and Malcolm Brown. At wide receiver, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Robert Woods, Josh Gordon, Cortland Sutton, Golden Tate, and then my tight end is Tyler Eifert.
So starting off with Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Saquon Barkley, Mark Ingram, Latavius Murray, Rashad Penny, and Naeem Hines at the running back position. Wide receiver Antonio Brown, Keenan Allen, AJ Green, Sterling Shepard, Marvin Jones, John Brown, and Traquan Smith. And then finally, Austin Hooper at the tight end position. My team, I'm feeling pretty confident overall. I like the running backs. Barkley really gives you a lot of safety to start with, and Mark Ingram, I think, also is pretty safe. Davis Murray, third option, I think is going to get good share of the carries because they want to limit Alvin Kamara's work, and then a really nice upside play in Rashad Penny, Naeem Hines rounding out there. Receiver position, maybe a little shakier. Obviously, Antonio Brown, I believe is fully going to play, but there was a lot of worry with him. Should he not show up, and Keenan Allen miss a few weeks, I could be in trouble at the wide receiver position with Allen, Shepard, and Jones being a solid but not great core. But definitely a lot of upside receiver with Antonio Brown and AJ Green. They both do hit. And really, Lamar Jackson, I'm really looking for just a guy who's going to do well first couple weeks, good matchups, and then has the potential to be an all-year starter. Austin Hooper, I think, is just a solid, safe tight end. How you feeling about your team there, Steve?
It depends what Steve you ask. The gambler is quite happy with how things played out. A very strong wide receiver core with Adams Hill and Robert Woods, and then the nice long shot with Josh Gordon. Running back is certainly not the best lineup with Montgomery, Coleman, Eckler, and Geis, but with Tony Pollard there as well. Hopefully we can kind of play the matchups week over week. Hopefully Tevin Coleman emerges or Austin Eckler, has a great role for 9 weeks or so. The safety Steve is very concerned with Coleman, Eckler, and Geis being 3 of my 4 running backs. Josh Gordon sitting on the roster, Sutton sitting on the roster, Eifert being the tight end. So this is a very interesting lineup that could pay massive dividends, but absolutely blow up in my face as well.
Yeah, seems like the usual Steve team that I'm used to here. I don't think I've ever met Safety Steve before.
Yeah, Safety Steve is out a lot in the offseason, and then he goes away when the real drafts come around.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, so another good draft in the books here. Any other things to touch on here before we sign off?
So I'll give a quick rundown on our socials. You can listen to us, anywhere that you typically listen to podcasts. You can also follow along with the draft board on YouTube. The channel's Trust Your Board, so we have all the same audio, but we have the actual board playing along with it. We also do live streams on YouTube as well as Twitch. So our Twitch account is Trust Your Board Podcast with an underscore in between each word. And then you can follow us on Twitter at Trust Your Board. We like answering poll questions and helping people out. We also let you know when the episodes go live and when we are live streaming on Twitter.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Steve. I think that just about does it for us today. And thank everyone for joining us here on the Trust Your Board podcast. I hope that this helps enlighten everybody as we go into one of the biggest draft weeks of the year. So hopefully everyone is going to enjoy their drafts here in the next week or two. We ask that, like Steve mentioned there, you subscribe, review, comment, just because we love getting the feedback, positive or negative, trying to make our podcast as good as we can here. So once again, signing out, wanted to thank everyone for joining us. Remember to trust your board.